Okay, I promised I would do a post-mortem on this old sun-damaged dash that I removed from my 2015 Macan Turbo. The first thing I want to note is that in my DIY video on how to swap it out, I couldn't figure out where the 3 tabs that are actually on the base of the windshield on inside the vehicle go. It wasn't a problem that I couldn't figure it out, but I do want to point out that they go right here, and right here. And you know, when you move the dash around in there, they're going to kind of naturally slide in there. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but there are 3 slots that those tabs go into. Next thing that I would say is that I think I was a bit lucky because I was able to find a good dash to swap out for this one, and it wasn't horribly expensive. It was $400 and some plus taxes and shipping, ended up being just a little over $700 total. But if I couldn't find a good dash, I certainly wouldn't hesitate to pull this one out and take it to a trim shop and have them recover it. So basically use the same, you know, plastic pieces, but you know, replace this old leather. I think you could, you know, do it. As a matter of fact, I had a Macan before that I noticed that the leather was slightly different. It had a padding underneath it, and I came to the conclusion that that one had been recovered. So you don't necessarily need to find a replacement dash. You could pull this dash out. It really wasn't that hard, and have them rip this old leather off. I don't think this leather is usable. It's just too shrunken in this shape, and you can't tell, but there's just a ton of tension on here. So you'd need to take this old dash leather off, strip it, and just put new dash leather in. I think it definitely I noticed is that this is more than one piece of plastic. You can see, you know, there's kind of 2 layers here, but they've been plastic welded together. Like this here is a vent. So the air comes up through the center of the dash and it goes up for the defroster, but then it comes over here to these side vents or side defrosters as well. And so there's a separate piece of plastic there, but you know, the plastic has all been welded together. You can kind of see it here. There is also a front piece here. You can see there's 2 on the front side of the dash, and those have also, you know, been welded together. So it's a multi-piece dash, but it's really been all melted into one piece, or melded into one piece. Next thing I noted is that the sun damage that was around the center vents and the clock and that center speaker, it looks like they shrank, because you can see the staples. They were visible before, you know, I removed the center panel here when it was in the dash, and you can see where the holes were. And so that portion of the dash that was leather damaged literally shrank up, and it pulled those staples out, and then those staples were visible. It wasn't horribly ugly, and had you know, honestly removed those staples, you probably wouldn't notice it that much. But the leather actually did shrink quite a bit there. Looks like it shrank maybe ½ an inch or more. I kind of, you know, felt like that's kind of interesting. It had the same phenomenon over here on this side as well, not quite as bad. Okay, so the part that gets the most attention, because it's closest to the driver, so it's, you know, really kind of in your face. Plus, it's the first part that generally starts to shrink and pull away, is this front lip on the dash. I mean, it's really cool looking, especially with the deviated stitching. You can see this one was actually replaced by the previous owner, and the trim shop they used did a pretty good job, except, you know, why in the world they couldn't match black? I mean, I would think black would be the easiest to match up, and it looks like they used some sort of, you know, really dark gray color for this to recreate this new strip. But how it's attached on there is kind of a mystery. I'm going to take a little closer look. So at the start of this video, I showed you that this, you know, this thing consists of multiple pieces of plastic welded together. And I think that's what we've got here on the front part. I think this front dash piece is a separate piece. Some people have thought about, is it screwed on, or maybe you could pull it off, recover it, and screw it back on. I don't think you can, because even though it does at least look like a separate piece, it's plastic welded together. At least, boy, it would be a bear to try to get it off, I think, because you've got multiple points where it's welded on here. I'll take a little closer look. I was able to get these plastic welds to pop open. I just, I took a large flathead screwdriver and was able to just go along here and pop these plastic welds open. It wasn't easy, but I was able to do it. And this front piece that's covered separately, yeah, it is its own piece. I apologize, I'm trying to hold with one hand, but it does come off. I'm gonna see if I can go along and pop some more of those plastic welds off and see if this thing comes off easily in one piece so that it could be pulled off and then covered and then reattached. That may have been what these people did. I was thinking maybe they just stuffed the leather in the crevice, but let me take a whack at separating this some more. Okay, I broke some more of these plastic welds, trying to, peel off this front piece. I just don't know if it's possible. You get in here and I'm really tearing this front piece up, so I'm not sure you could re-glue it back. Just pull it off and wrap it and re-glue it back. I don't think it would go correctly. The one thing I did notice is that the trim shop that did this, they did a nice job other than, just mismatching the color. But on the front side, look at all this extra leather that, is underneath the dash. It wrapped up underneath here. But on the back side, they didn't. It looks to me like they literally just tried to tuck it in this crevice here rather than trying to wrap it back underneath there. A couple of these that I've glued together, I was able to get these back edges to actually go up underneath here, so it would, it slot in here. But this professional trim guy, obviously he wasn't able to do that. The best he could do was kind of wrap it to the back and then end it, just right here. So it didn't really, it looked good, and I guess you can see it down here, how he did it. You can see that that's the open edge of the leather, the cut edge of the leather. But when it was on the dash in the car, it really wasn't noticeable. So I think you can recover this front part, but I just don't see how it's feasible to detach it without tearing it all the way up. So you can't just, unscrew this front part, easily pull it off, wrap it, and then screw it back on. It doesn't work that way. The thing's just, plastic welded on there. So it is a separate piece, but it's kind of permanently attached. So that's kind of bad news. I know some of the guys were, asking me, well, do you think you can, are there some bolts or screws or something or clips you could get that front piece off relatively easily, wrap it and put it back on? Gosh, fellas, I just don't, I don't see how you can do that. I think probably the best thing to do would be to pull the old leather off, put new leather on, wrap the front part around, and then that back part just, try to cut it so it ends perfectly right, along the bottom of this seam where these two pieces, go together, like what these guys did. It was not a bad job other than, again, the easy part, the color didn't match. So not sure what they were thinking there. All right, so that's my post-mortem on the dash. This one's gonna go in the dumpster. I don't really see any reason to save it. But I think if you needed a dash, or if you needed to recover your dash, and you couldn't find a good used one to replace it, I would recommend, just pulling a dash, taking it to your local trim shop. Once it's out of the vehicle, I think they could relatively easily re-wrap it. But all right, guys, hope this was helpful.